Hey everybody, I'm Lex.
Hey, I'm Shane. Welcome to PDQ and A, where you ask your questions, I guess.
And
we do our best to try to minimize the misinformation.
There we go.
That's actually, I think that's our new mission statement. Is just to minimize the misinformation. Yeah, that's what it is. So yeah, go ahead and throw down, everybody. I anticipate some questions about the agent, but whatever.
This is your show. Bring it on.
Go for it.
Dear Shane and Lex, with the new optional agent, is there a way to have it automatically deploy to machines that do not have it installed, or for machines that are not on at the time the agent is pushed out? Or am I accidentally submitting a feature request? LOL. Chris G.
Boy, those accidental feature requests actually do come in quite a bit, or I should say slightly masked, veiled feature requests. No, there's a way to do it. It's not native to the agent, but you can use PDQ deploy.
Absolutely.
With PDQ deploy, you can. If we had discussed this in the last week, where Colby had mentioned, here's kind of how you can build a package to do this. It's very simple. If Colby, do you want to pipe in there, bud? All right.
There we go.
We are concise, if nothing else. No, do you want to throw it out?
Do you want to show the package? Or?
Well, you know what, there probably is here. If we want, Chris, we can put that back out on the the extra
bonus content.
Bonus content last week.
So you can take that package. You could set up in a heartbeat schedule, and you'd catch people coming back online.
Mm-hmm. Just basically schedule it with PDQ deploy. So we've got the optional install agent. Install step here, calling the agent installer. There's the parameters right there.
Got to have that, guys.
Now the important thing, well, number one, you're not going to have it if it's not an inventory anyway. Then this is a moot point. But there's that right there. Grab that XML file. You can get that XML file in the applications directory of the inventory. So
right there,
deploy that. There's pretty much it. And then create a heartbeat schedule.
Okay, there we go.
Create a heartbeat schedule. You can use other triggers, but a heartbeat is the one that will, when those machines come online, it'll get deployed out to it. That's worked for us. It's worked for other customers. That's what I would suggest. But no, there's not a native feature to the
inventory
to
itself.
The agent install from within inventory. But just use deploy. They work together.
Our next question is a two for maybe even a triple play of questions. How does the Windows Features section located near the bottom of the left pane of the computer detail screen get populated? Is there a scanner we are missing? Question number 2, and related, how do we know what the built-in scanners are actually scanning for? When I create a scan profile, I can see each of the scanners within it. If I try to edit the built-in application scan profile, I see 3 scanners: computer details, hotfixes, and applications. How do I know what each of those individual scanners does? Sincerely, Valerie.
Oh wow, yeah, that's a little deep pull from the '80s. nice tune there. Okay, well, first of all, if you're looking at the Windows features and they're not being populated, I believe, Valerie, I believe that is that won't be populated in free mode. But basically, that scanner, the Windows features scanner, looks 2 places. It looks in WMI. Mm-hmm. I think it's. I talked to Adam about this. I think it's Win32 Windows features or Windows components, and then there's a registry. There's a registry key that we look in for some of the optional subcomponents, but the scanner itself looks those 2 locations. As far as there's the Windows features. One thing, we do have some hidden columns here by default. The name is actually what you'll generally use, especially if you're used to the old DISM, but in PowerShell, most likely it's the actual name, not the caption that you'll use. The name doesn't have any spaces in it. It's usually delimited by the different words are usually just separated by a dash. Mm-hmm. But you can show the name in there if you want. And of course, the enabled is just Boolean. The scanner, as far as the second question, I'm going to go to a profile here. Let's see, scan profiles. We try to make them as We try to make them kind of answer just the name of the actual scanner. We try to connote what it is. Now the scan profile, not to be confused with the scan profile, we created the application scan profile. By default, we grab applications. So this looks in the Windows registry for applications, and it looks in not only the HKey local machine, but it will look in the current user as well. That does mean that if a user is logged on, it might find an application that's installed in that user's context, and then when another user logs on, they get replaced.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's usually just in the registry for that one. The one thing that's a little nebulous is the computer details. Computer details grabs a lot of information, actually. It does grab the total amount of memory. It grabs the OS. It grabs...
Get some WMI scans that go through there.
Yeah, .NET version, IE version, stuff like that. Mostly, for the most part, it grabs what you see in the computer. I'll open up Guinness here. It will grab what you see in the computer window of or the computer page of the computer window. So there's a few exceptions to this, like the Active Directory is from the Active Directory scanner. But like the system, manufacturer, BIOS, that's the computer details. But otherwise, the scanners like services, we just grab Windows services and try to make it fairly descriptive. If you're not seeing data there, try to scan that again. Look in the event log if you are running the enterprise mode and you're still not seeing anything. Look in the event log, see if that errored out. One of the things that we've done to prevent like one little roadblock from getting all the other data in there is sometimes there can be a timeout. We are looking at WMI, so there might be a WMI timeout. And we just will throw down the results of the computer details and applications and stuff like that. So, but if you look at, by the way, if you want to modify the application scan profile, you can add, let's just say that you do want services. You can go ahead and just say, I'm going to add services. When this is run, it'll also grab the services. We created this profile out the gate just so that, to try to let people realize, little mind experiment. I don't have to scan everything. There are some things that are just don't change as often.
No need to grab computer details if an application's been updated. I mean, it's
just stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's why do you want to scan Windows, or files if you don't need to? Why do you want to scan memory modules? They don't change that often. So you can kind of customize your scan profiles that way. If you have any further questions, Valerie, please throw down if I didn't answer that.
Dear Shane and Lex, on multiple SQL reports, I am getting the all computers result no matter what collection I choose. From what I understand, I am supposed to use a PDQ inventory function called WHERE ComputerFilter and to fix that, but I get an error when on any collection other than all computers when including that. Do you have an example you can show for proper use? Sincerely, Chakal S.
Hey, Chakal. If you're going to use the computer filter, let's go to report and new report and SQL report. The only way for us to use the way this computer filter function will work is if you are in fact calling something from the computers table. Make sure you are calling computer like computers.
at the very least the computer name.
Yeah. Because it's that computers table that it uses. If you're just saying, show me a count of, if you're looking at applications and I want to see how many, applications are installed, how many versions of, or how many times we have Office installed, or how many times we have AutoCAD installed, and you're not referencing that, the computer filter is not going to work as you're expecting it to. So that's pretty much the one. That's pretty much the one thing. So I can run this one. We'll select the collection source. So you're saying it works with all computers, so we should get 33 results there. But define it and change the collection source, and we'll go on down to Office. We should get 1. Okay. If you don't use the computers table, then you're going to run into a problem. Just so you know, because we use the computer ID actually to filter that, because we just look to say, is this computer ID in this collection source?
Dear Shane and Lex, is it possible to find out why a machine needs reboot in inventory? Craig S.
Now, there was a feature request that we were discussing, and I don't recall if it made it or not. It's a little cryptic. We look in the registry. We look in. Microsoft has an area somewhat deep in the registry that lists basically the files that need to be renamed. When you're installing an application and you see this, hey, a reboot is necessary, that's because a file or files were in use that couldn't be updated. So there's an area in the registry where basically it says this file at this path, when the computer boots back up, just change this new file or this old file with this new file. And we look for entries there. There are a couple of exceptions, known issues where there are some applications that will consistently have data in there that it shouldn't be. So we've, through the years, we've filtered those out. There's one printer driver issue as well.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's where we'll look. Do you know what that off the top of your? I'm going to put you on the spot here, Colby. Do you know where that registry key is off the top of your head?
Unfortunately, I do not.
If you really want, we can dig it out. It is somewhat cryptic.
Yeah.
One of the features was people. I think the feature that came through is we'd like to see what's in there, and it can get fairly populated.
Yeah, it can.
That's what we do. We just look in that area and determine whether or not it needs to be rebooted. Actually, no, they didn't want to know what it was. They wanted to kind of call out. Like I can go to where's the needs reboot? There it is.
Required.
Reboot required. So these are the machines that currently, as of the last scan that had computer detail scanner. Remember, computer details is kind of the dumpster of scanners. Applications, self-explanatory. Services, self-explanatory. Disks, once again. But we'll throw that into the computer details, or the computer detail scanner. And we'll just read that. Every time that scanner is run, we'll read that, and that's what will get populated. So that means these machines will need that. You can also see it from the actual machine. You can go to Allen Rails, and you'll see on the main computer page that a reboot is needed. But it's just true or false. Yes, it is, or no, it's not.
Right down, bottom left-hand corner.
There we go. So that's where we look in the registry. You can try different ways of highlighting that out. We've got the collection for you, but that's pretty much what it means. And there could be a lot of entries in there. If you've installed something large, there could be 60, 70 entries if there are a lot of changes that need to be done. So.
Dear Shane and Lex, I have a webcam that sprouted legs and walked off from our computer room. What is the best way to get alerted if it suddenly shows up as a device on a different machine? Sincerely, the fabulous Kathleen F.
I have that in my office, by the way.
You went to Kathleen's office and stole it.
Well, there's no way unless you have access to PDQ.
Oh, there's probably some programs out there you can use.
True.
We don't have those types of alerts. Best I could if you
Could you do a WMI scanner to identify it?
Well, you could look in the hardware. You could do this. I mean, you're not going to get alerted, but you could occasionally run some reports.
Like an auto report?
Nice segue.
Good
Good point. You could have an aggressive auto report that could kind of
runs on an hour.
Send you an email every 2 minutes. Anyway, in the hardware, check this out. That webcam may have an entry in your hardware table, and if it does, then look for the ID. There's a lot of information here that's hidden as far as a hidden column. The driver sign, maybe not as much as I thought. Look for that name. Look for anything that's can kind of define that one, and then just build a report saying what computer is this attached to, and see if it pops up. That's kind of where I would go. It'll really help if it's the only one of that make and
type,
model.
yeah. Makes it significantly easier to find.
I would look in the hardware. But first of all, you got to find a machine that has a camera like that and see what it shows up as.
Yeah.
That's one thing you could do. And then, like Colby said, if you want to get aggressive, you could create an auto report to say, send me anywhere this thing shows up every 5 minutes or whatever. And
So we don't capture hardware MAC addresses then, apparently.
no, we only MAC address that we we'll concern
NIC,
ourselves with
yeah.
is the MAC address that's the NIC for the computer.
Gotcha.
So, I would assume if this is a network camera, it's probably USB though. So anyway.
Dear Shane and Lex, with a new inventory agent, is there a way to see why an agent installation doesn't complete when it just reports not installed, but doesn't give an error why? Sincerely, Shanum.
We do have some logs. Do you want to? Did you look at that? Did you see that question?
I did.
Okay. Do you want to? Oh, I love Colby. There's no such thing
deadpan.
as a leading question with this man.
Yes, I did.
Yes.
The face was great. Yes.
You'd be great in court because, you know, anybody who's trying to get information out of you.
Just the same look.
Yeah,
I bet you're a good poker player.
You just play yes. Just yes, no.
I have a terrible poker face. I can't resist smiling.
Oh, come on. That face isn't terrible or anything. And if you can't resist smiling, that's a good poker face. If you're smiling all of the time, that is a good poker face.
Good to know.
We'll
Come
have
over to
a
my
game in the
house.
Bring a lot of money.
We're gonna play. I'm gonna cancel my trip to Florida. We're gonna play poker. Bring your paycheck.
No limits.
Anyway, what do you? Okay, Colby. So you're not taking the leading question. What do you have to share with that?
There are multiple
Yes.
places that you can look. The event log on the target.
Okay.
There's also a log database on the target, a SQLite log database. That is in Program Files, Admin Arsenal, PDQ Inventory Agent. It'll live right next to the agent's configuration database.
Okay.
Sometimes there might be something that bubbles up on the server itself, but generally it's going to be something on the target.
Okay. Let me see. I'm gonna open up Allen Rails. I'll go down to Windows to the shares and click on the C link there. That should open up Allen Rails C share.
Program data.
And then there's program data, admin arsenal, our old name, PDQ inventory agent. And by the way, if you're trying to look at he's talking about the log. There's there's the database and a log. The actual scan data is encrypted. So trying to open that up, you're gonna have a bad time.
Not gonna be
But this is the location that he was talking about there, but as well as the event log. Check that out. And it could be that there's just some additional logging that we need to do. Contact support, and they'll be able to walk you through a little bit more of that. It's the files that you want to send. Sorry that you're having that problem, buddy.
Dear Shane and Lex, I need to install fonts for various users, but not all. Can I do that easily with Deploy? Thanks, Dougie Fresh K.
I've done fonts for all users. You could probably do a font for the currently logged on user.
Yeah.
If you want to do fonts for certain users, I'm just going to go out on a limb and say you're gonna want to deploy some scripting magic,
absolutely.
because you're going to need to traverse the
Profiles.
The profiles.
Yeah.
You're going to need to traverse the profiles. If you're using the registry, you're going to see those profile IDs. So you're going to want to dig through and say if these match these usernames or don't match these usernames. You're going to need to deploy some type of logic,
in there.
and even then, you could run into some problems. And like I say, when I've done it by the logged on user, it was doing it from that user's context. I don't know about installing fonts using a user other than that user account. I'm not sure if that would work, but you would probably have to hit the sum. What I would really recommend is looking at a user level GPO. Put those users into a particular, have some type of
Group for those fonts.
just a policy that only applies to users that are in these groups or these OUs or something like that. That's probably where I'd go.
Dear Shane and Lex, I have created a package that disables our antivirus software on step 3, installs a program on step 4, then restarts the antivirus on step 5. If step 4 fails, how do I get it to run step 5 and still report as failed? Thanks, Wendy F.
The way to do that is to change. Good question, Wendy. Let me see if I can find. I'm gonna need to. Go to Java 7 here. I'm only going to Java 7 just because this is from Moskowitz. This is.
We got steps we can actually
We
alter
have
here at
multiple
this point.
steps here. So, disregard that this is not the package you're talking about. But let's say that step 3, kill Java update scheduler. If this fails, I still want it to move on to the next step, and then the next step will most likely fail in your case. What you want to do is go into the options for step 3, and on the error mode, set that to continue. If you stop the error, the default is stop deployment with error. Here you're going to want to say continue. So what will happen is, even if that fails, returns a non-success error code. In other words, it returns a code that's not listed in
details, yeah.
in success codes, limited by commas. If it returns a code that's not listed there, then you will see when you go and look at the steps, that when you go and click on that history, come over here, you click on these 7 of 7 steps, you would see, instead of green or grayed out, you would see a little warning icon that says this failed. But because it was set to continue, it marked it as failed and then moved on. That's pretty much the way you'd have to do that. Of course, if in your case step 5 fails, there's a good chance that it failed because that was, the antivirus was still running. What I would actually suggest doing, if possible, depending on the reason why it's failing, see if you could put an exception into your antivirus policy, so that this particular files or files coming from this directory aren't evaluated, and the real-time scanner doesn't gobble them up. That's what I would suggest.
Dear Shane and Lex, you may want to sit down for this one. Is it possible
Do you have a chair, Diedrich, that you want to bring to us here?
Is it possible to exclude targets from deployment schedules without customizing the auto-download package conditions or creating a custom collection? E.g., all workstations need the latest Java except one that needs a legacy version. I use the inventory collection library to create a collection of outdated versions and then deploy the auto-download package on a weekly schedule to update them. But this also includes the workstation I do not wish to update. Sincerely, Diedrich K.
The only way to do, not the way you want. I mean, you're talking about just exempting the same computer all the time, but only from Java. It sounds like. I mean, if you want to exempt the same computer all the time, and it's going to still remain a member of these collections, and you don't want to create a custom collection. I mean, you kind of answered your own question, because you realize, I know I can create a custom collection that doesn't have this computer, etc. If it's all computers and you could, or the same computer that you never want to deploy, then in preferences, boy, I went back to file there, that was years old. You can go down to target filters and put that computer in the exclusions, and then it will never receive a deployment.
Ever.
Unless
there
is a command line where you can override that.
Correct.
I was waiting for the one word confirmation. I look over at Colby and I'm like,
next time
here comes Colby's soliloquy of the day. Correct.
Shane, that is accurate.
No, that's way too verbose,
yes.
JJ. There's no reason to waste syllables. Come on. He's getting paid per word.
Yes.
In that case, when I talk more,
Actually, he's paying per word. How's that
Right.
sound? He's got some cosmic deal worked
Like a
out.
golf game.
Yeah. Anyway, target filters, you can put the name of the computer in there, and then it will never get him. Otherwise, you are going to need to kind of create a custom collection. Now, you can make it somewhat easier, just keeping in mind that you're still going to be beholden to system variables. But you could go over here to Java. Let me just grab Java real quick and go to runtimes and Java. We'll do Java 8. 32-bit. You could say grab this old one and just copy it, and then move it somewhere else. There we go. And then in here, once again, now this is old. So when these system level variables change, this will be reflected correctly. What won't happen now that you've copied this particular collection, this one that you've copied, this now custom collection, if we change anything, like add a new variable or change the logic, it won't get it. But here you could say matches expression this, starts with this, and then you could add a new filter where the computer name, does not equal
Toxic Rick.
Lex or something,
Lex.
whatever the name of the computer is, and then deploy to this old, and just make sure to keep it, to keep checking to see that nothing has changed. Once again, if we keep on using the same variable names, you're good. It's once we introduce new variables or change the logic that you're going to want to copy that new collection library collection down and make the same change.
Yep.
That's one way you could probably get what you're looking
Probably
for.
the easiest way, I would say, if it's one machine.
Another way you can do it is create a collection that points to the collection library collection. And Jason Hanks actually, in our internal chat, gave a knowledge base link to this, where basically you create a dynamic collection and a static collection. The dynamic collection points at the collection library and the static collection, so that anytime you want to add computer exclusions, you add them to that static collection.
Yeah.
Hank's coming in, and how much did that sentence cost you?
It's an
At least
expensive
$350.
Wow.
Oh man.
Rock on, dude. You're going to have to start cutting down the conventions that you attend.
So that link is in the chat, and we will put it in the bonus content for those.
Nicely-
Hey, thank
nicely
you,
done, Hanks.
thank you, Jason. And you know what? Double thank you. For the pre-show, we were talking about how Jason took some time off of Lex's life by scaring the hell out of him. So this is actually a double thank you. You're doing good work for
I'm
humanity.
saying you out of that, dude.
Doing
You
the
scared
Lord's
the hell
work.
out of me.
What do we have?
Dear Shane and Lex, with the agent now installed on all of our machines, and seeing as the agent uses PDQ.com's infrastructure to communicate with our central server, is our inventory scanning now dependent on PDQ.com's infrastructure functioning, even for machines that are internal? Just kind of wondering. Dave A.
Keep that question up there for a moment, please. No, if they are internal, the PDQ.com connection is inconsequential in the context of the internal, because an internal machine will look for the PDQ deploy,
Port.
PDQ inventory central server.
Yeah, which is the port
PDQ inventory
7337 is what it's looking for
Yeah, and
communications.
if it always tries that first. If it can't connect to it, and actually specifically also if we can't connect to that computer using the central server, use that port. From that port, we'll also revert back to the old way. If we can't make the communication with that agent on your network, then it will go to PDQ.com. So the answer to that, specifically, you shouldn't have anything to worry about on your internal computers. On the external computers, yes, absolutely. You are dependent on the PDQ.com infrastructure,
Yep.
and you should be very grateful that Lex had nothing to do with building that
Here, here.
for stability purposes.
Oh, my stuff's good. Stable like Charles Manson.
You were on acid, man, son.
Dude.
You would have
at this
gotten the
point,
same
he's-
message from the monkeys.
He's pretty stable.
yeah. He's that's fantastic.
Solid, literally. Solid.
I wouldn't say even solid. Yes, yes.
Dear Shane and Lex,
His heartbeat hasn't changed in a while.
I'm wondering, with the new agent communicating to the PDQ Cloud, is there any info on what is being transmitted and over what? SSL, TSL, etc. I think my security team might kybosh it. Thanks, Aaron D.
Hey, Aaron.
They have a problem with clear text.
Passwords over clear text? What?
I noticed there's some packets over the network.
I noticed I noticed a password that I set personally. Yeah,
You wrote a really good FAQ.
It actually
FAQ.
is in the FAQ, considering even more links, just discussing the encryption that we deployed. Do you want to add anything to that, Colpster?
Yes, Adam and I did write an FAQ that goes into detail about how the external agent communication works and why it's secure and all that.
So they can get to it from the FAQ. Or they go to the FAQ, and then that even links to a more specific statement, or is it just in that one section about what's encrypted and everything?
No, there are
Is it directly in the FAQ?
It's directly in the FAQ, yes.
Go out to the FAQ. If we don't have a link in the bonus content, put it out there again. That should answer your question and resolve any concerns that your security team might have, unless they hate encryption. So,
Dear Shane and Lex, is there a way to trigger a delayed reboot next 4 hours with user notification well in advance to happen based on contents of the reboot required collection? Thanks, Info D.
keep that question up for a
Is there a
second. I'm gonna
delay
have
or
to-
reboot?
We don't have a native delayed reboot. There's ways you can get a delayed reboot by chaining packages, like maybe a package that sends out a message and a schedule that's scheduled 4 hours, to use your metric, before another reboot will happen. You could have in the reboot you can specify the timeout when you go
A
when
very
you
long
build.
sleep timeout, or yeah.
Let's go to a new package here. Go to this reboot step. So on the reboot, you can specify the number of seconds. I've never gone as high as 4 hours, but you can specify the number of seconds that it's going to reboot, and as long as it meets those conditions, and if someone's logged on, they'll see the message that the system is, and a reboot has been initiated.
Now, if you were to extend that to 4 hours, you'd probably want to change the timeout on the package too, so it doesn't.
That's a good point. Yeah, if you're going to do 4 hours on this, then thank you. Go to your properties, go to options and timeout. Use a custom timeout and change that to commensurate time. Add a few minutes to it just for the processing. But that's probably the way to do it. But there's not in this reboot. The delayed step is really just adding a timer to it.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. It's not like it's going. Once you come down to scripting magic, yes, you could actually put a package that puts a Windows task in there to kicks off in 4 hours. But it just depends on how deep you want to get into it. Yeah.
Down that path, yeah.
Dear Shane and Lex, I have a list of about 350 serial numbers in a CSV file and want to make a static collection of those. Import doesn't seem to work because it isn't the full computer name. If I copy and paste into Filter, it only pastes the first one. Is there an easy way to save me from copying and pasting line by line? Thank you so much, Chakal S.
You're still going to have make a relationship
Yeah, it's gonna be a reference.
before the import of each computer name to its corresponding serial number. Do you have anything you want to add to that one?
Yes, you will have to add the computer to inventory first, but after that you can create a custom field and use the custom field import wizard to import those serial numbers.
But the name's got to match. That computer
Right.
name does have to match, so that they can match this computer, this serial number.
Correct.
He still wouldn't run into the problem with his computer name issue there, because his issue is he's got to be able to. You're importing those serial numbers, but all he's got is a CSV of the serial numbers. How does that map to the correct computer, since this custom field is mapped to a computer? How does he get the right one in there without importing the computer name? He doesn't have the computer name there.
Yeah, if all he has is the serial number, then I'm not sure what he
Yeah,
would
there's
do.
no
that's what I
magic
was
to
saying.
make
You're
that
gonna
happen.
you're gonna have to find. Sorry, buddy. You're gonna have to find a way to get that, to do the import, which is kind of where we were going. You have to make that mapping there. So if you have these unrelated, just in a simple CSV, then yeah, you're, as far as I
Roll the dice, which serial number you
yeah,
want. Yeah.
it's copy and pasting. I'm sorry about that one. I don't know how we would get that logic to be able to know.
So are we stumped?
Yeah.
Take a drink.
Well,
Take a
it's
drink.
I'll take a drink no matter what. But it's
We got to be able to decide
we have
what
to make
matches
we
what.
have to be able to map that serial number with that.
Absolutely.
If you want, yeah, we can just simply throw them in there like shuffled cards. But that would be the Lex method of IT management.
Now, if the computer is already in inventory, we do collect the serial number, and so you might be able to write a PowerShell script to try to query our database and try to match it that way.
Or, I mean, if it's a serial number,
Well, then again, if it's already
if it's a
in
serial
there.
if it's a serial number that we already grabbed, then he just does a report. I think it sounds like it might be a serial number for something else that we're not grabbing, or that is not.
I was going to say,
it's
if
not
there's
being
already a
collected
serial
in
number,
BIOS.
why import another one?
Yeah.
Unless it's different.
You
so.
prompted a discussion out here. Sorry, buddy.
Dearest Shane and Lex, is there a way to change the icons in inventory? Some of our VMs and laptops are showing with the computer icon, and it's a nice visual shortcut when you're looking for something specific. Thanks, Tiffany G.
Interesting. Well, the shortcuts on the computer. So, number one, you're talking about the icons. I mean, for icons. For icons that are in this panel, you can modify them, but not in the computer area. You can go down to View and Item Appearance, and then there's a list of icons that you can change for the collections. But here, we determine these icons based off of a WMI lookup of the chassis. And there's a table that Windows maintains. It says, yeah, this is a laptop. This is actually, they have laptop, notebook, desktop, portable, all sorts of stuff. We look for that, and that's how we'll determine it. So, no, we don't have a way natively for you to change the icon of the computer. We just grab that from the chassis type. Yeah. So you'd need to change the chassis, the chassis ID of those computers to map like a laptop or something like that. We look for laptop and portable, I think, and notebook. Those are the three that will constitute a little laptop icon. Do you have anything you want to add to that?
That sounds correct. Also, my favorite is probably the pizza box chassis.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah.
I noticed that. It's fantastic.
Now, if you do go into the database and change that, the next time your scan updates, it's going to overwrite.
Well, if you change that chassis type, and another external process could change it.
Okay.
If you changed it, I'm not sure if Windows has another method of.
Oh, changing it on the machine.
No, I'm
itself.
saying you'll need to go out there and change that.
I was thinking if you're going in the database and changing the ID
No,
as soon as it
I'm
scans
sorry.
again.
Think that's a good point for calling out. We have had people do that where they will change data in the database, just going in there and figuring out running an update SQL command, and then the next scan just overwrites it. So you have to go to the source.
Yeah.
Do you have any other questions?
Dear Shane and Lex, will Firefox ESR 64-bit be added to the collection library? What about the newly announced Firefox Enterprise? Sincerely, Gene, the Dancing Machine C.
Yeah, we got to look at that. I know for ESR, it was this a long time ago when I added that. I thought, I'm just going to wait to see if anybody requests 64-bit.
Yeah.
And it was out there for years without anybody saying anything. The answer is yes, we can add it. The Firefox collections are already pretty populated just because of the different incantations. And now it looks like with Firefox Enterprise, we should look into that. Colby, let's make a note and let's talk about that and see what we can do to add it. But yeah, he's going over here to Firefox. Notice we got Firefox and Firefox ESR, and then this is we would need to change these. Add a 32 and 64-bit. There's some things Colby knows the parameters so that we don't screw up any auto downloads that are linked. But yeah, there's a way to do it. We'll look into that.
Dear Shane and Lex, can you use inventory to tell which or what version of a deployed GPO a machine is using, so you can see if an updated or new GPO is on it? Thanks, Dustin M.
Oh, I wish you would have asked that question when Moskowitz was here. So there's GPO. There's an area in the registry where you can run a registry scanner to find out the GPOs that are applied. I'm not sure about versions though. I'm not sure if versions are captured there. But do a Google search, find out the registry key that shows the GPOs. Build a registry scanner. So go out to options when you find this. Go to options, scan profiles. If you don't want to modify an existing one, you can just create a new profile. Add a registry. And then that's where you're going to have to specify that path. Where those GPU the list of GPOs, and then pull that information up. And I'm not sure if version is in there. If it is, then this is the way you would do it. You'd run a registry scanner, and then you could run a report or collections.
Now, if the GPO doesn't write a version, can you have a GPO actually do a registry entry and then look for that at the end of? Like,
You would have, I mean, you can have GPOs do a lot of things, but you would actually, in this case, in that case, you'd probably actually have to script that.
Yeah.
Because
so you could at the,
the
end of that
GPO,
GPO,
the GPO information that's being written is that's constantly being updated in the registry. I'd be afraid that something would get overwritten.
Yeah.
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 Look for that. But look,
there's
there's an area where you can find out which policies were applied. I'm just not on the version. I'm not sure. Remember, if it's in the registry, and there are some exemptions to this. If it's in the current user, then a registry scanner is not going to work for you. And then there's certain binary data that you just is not going to make any sense to you because it's just there's so much data there. But for the most part, if it's in the registry or if it's in WMI, you can build a corresponding scanner to grab that and then reflect that data in meaningful ways.
Yeah, once you've got it, you can report, build collections, the whole bit off that.
We should probably do another registry and WMI webcast. There's certainly a lot of data there that we could cover. Are there any more questions?
Absolutely. Dear Shane and Lex, can PDQ Inventory be used to create a dynamic inventory, one that would be exported to Excel on a schedule showing computer name and description? Thanks, Jorlando D.
A dynamic inventory. So what it sounds like to me, you're probably going to want to use the auto report function. Is that how you're reading that, Colby?
Yes, it is. And one thing that might help is a feature that we added to Inventory 16 where you can now have auto reports overwrite.
Overwrite existing auto reports.
Yeah. So you could pump out a CSV file that you could then read.
Yeah.
Now, dynamically, I guess if a new machine got added, would it automatically mean, I don't know if is there a trigger that we could automatically kick that off, but if you just did it periodically and just overwrote?
Yeah, just you could have a fairly aggressive one. Depends on what you're looking for, Orlando. But that's what I would do is look at it from the auto reports. And yes, you can build a report that just simply grabs computer name and the description. Remember, there are two descriptions. Everybody, there's the computer description, the local, and then there's the AD description. Please don't confuse the two. There are people that say, "Look at this, my AD description is empty. There's a big, air box right there. Nothing in there yet in the inventory. Look at that. Oh, they're looking at the computer description." So, or vice versa. There's two descriptions. Just make sure you're grabbing the right one. But just do an auto report, have it thrown out. You can also email it to you with that Excel data.
And our final question of the day. Dear Shane and Lex, we've been using PDQ Enterprise for a month or so, and it has made a huge difference, saving us time and reporting accurate information. Number one, Adobe Flash Updates is working great for us. I do see Acrobat Reader patches. Do they work the same way as Adobe Flash Updates? And number two, also, I do not see Adobe Acrobat Standard / Pro patches. Do I need to manually download the patches and push them to needed PCs? Thanks, Sharap G.
All right, let's break this down. Hi, Sharap. Hey, thank you for using PDQ. Rock on. That question, Adobe Flash Updates, do they work the same as Reader patches? And Reader patches, yes. I mean, we deployed the MSIs of the Adobe Flash, and we deployed the MSIs or the MSPs for Adobe Reader. You are correct that we do not offer the standard or pro patches, and the reason for that is we don't offer paid software in the package library, and we just haven't. Even though these won't work if you don't own that, we're not talking about deploying the real one. We haven't gone there just because we just don't want any issues. But what we do offer the collections for Acrobat for the writer, and that should help you out. And it's very easy to grab those patch files, and you can use the reader as a template.
So I got a question for you though. So in regards to the reader, right? The Flash, if I send the Flash patch to a machine that doesn't have Flash, it's going to install. If I send a reader patch to a machine that does not have reader on it, it's going to error.
Correct. That's why we have. I'm going to go to the packages here, and we'll just look at some of the Adobe. There's Adobe Reader. Notice if it says patch is great because this is This is what you would want to deploy to Adobe Reader DC, in this case 2015, the classic Adobe Reader. This is what you would want to deploy to machines that already have 2015 installed. And it's very simple. In the collection library, you just say deploy this to machines that are in the Adobe Reader 2015 old.
Yep. Boom.
If you want the 2015 Classic, this Classic, yes, it deploys the same version, but this might take a little while, but it installs the main install. So for machines that don't have Adobe Reader at all, you would need to install that. We just recommend doing the patch for subsequent installs on those machines because it's just less data that's having to traverse the network. It's overall better. I mean, for some people they don't really care because they're like, I've got an incredibly fast network.
Yep.
It's just kind of best practice to kind of break those up. So what we do here, we do use Adobe here. We'll have new machines that don't have it installed get the regular one, and then patch will only hit those machines that have that particular version installed.
Absolutely.
Now, as far as the others, grab this collection library. You can see them here. Let's do Adobe. Yeah. PDF apps, you'll see writers, Adobe Acrobat. We'll break them down by, Document Cloud, and then 15 and 17 classic versions, and 10 and 11. So you can literally use these to determine which machines have it installed, and then you can download these reader patches and use those as
Template.
as the template, and just grab those install files and create a corresponding installation for Adobe Acrobat. So I hope that answers your question. All right, everybody. Hey, thanks for the questions. There were some really good ones out there.
Thanks for playing today. Yeah.
I like having to think. Being around Lex, it's
Mind-numbing.
it becomes a treasure. Those moments where you actually have to think, where you're not spending an absolute measurable, not just detectable amount of time eye rolling. Anyway, thank you very much, Lex. You take this stuff so well. I love this guy. Hey, Colby, thank you very much. Colby broke 7 syllables, everybody.
Yes.
Hell
So
yeah.
much today. All right.
Whiskey's going to be pouring right now.
Thanks much,
We'll
guys.
talk to you later.
Thanks for joining our webcast today, and thanks for all the great questions. If we didn't get your question answered, we'll try to answer you via email. Congratulations, Aaron D. and Dave A., winners of PDQ swag. Just send us your info at webcast@pdq.com. Thanks again for joining us, and we will see you back here next week.